tarantula keeper's 3 favorite letters: OBT. A few weeks ago, my male Lasiociano sazimai passed away. And I was thinking, what to do with the empty enclosure? And then came the idea. I have never showed you how I make arid enclosures. So, coincidentally, I have the perfect spider just for that. So, let's make an enclosure for the Pterinochilus murinus. Let's go! So, this is the topic of today. This is the enclosure where my male Lasiociano sazimai lived. So after this guy died, I decided I will change that enclosure for my growing Pterinochilus murinus usambara female. And I thought it would be a nice idea to show you how to make a nice looking arid terrarium. Well, there are some corrections which needs to be made with this enclosure. First, I need to silicone this upper rail a bit, because it's wobbly, like the ventilation here. You can see this enclosure can be opened from the front, and after opening the front you can also remove the upper glass, which is quite handy if you want to clean everything. So let's start by making the background for this enclosure, and just for that occasion I have some special ingredients. I have a bag of clay. This is a grayish yellowish clay, which I hope will work pretty well with the Pterinochilus murinus. I already did an enclosure with clay for my Chromatopelma cyanopubescens, and this looks really nice, but I thought this color will be better with the Pterinochilus murinus. In addition to that, we need some sand, and we will need to mix that together with some water, and this will be the basis for our clay background. But first, because this will probably be a big mess, I will use some gloves and try to use a container that you can get rid of just in the worst possible scenario. I've heard different mixing ratios for different kind of species. The strongest one would be probably pure clay, but I would probably use a 3:1 ratio and it should be fine. And I've also prepared an enclosure for the unused clay, because this stuff will get everywhere if you are not careful. Let's close the lid. Now some water. That would be a disaster if there would be holes right now at the bottom. I will turn this enclosure upside down. I will put something under that so the water won't flow out of this through this ventilation holes. This is weird. That was close. Oh yeah. This will stick pretty well. I hope this will stick pretty well, or I will look pretty dumb. Everything is very well mixed. Now let's add this mixture to the background. Remember that these enclosures can't get wet, because if you accidentally spray too much water inside, then everything can fall down and you can bury your tarantula under a lot of sand. So what you can do now is you can stick stuff inside this wall. For example, I have this piece of corkbark here. I can stick that right here, seal that up, and it will look like there's a branch or some kind of roots that are growing out from the dirt, from the ground, whatever this is supposed to be in the end. I can already see that this will be a very heavy enclosure. So yeah, here's the finished background. I added one more piece of cork bark, some reindeer lichen and some sticks, and now it really looks like part of a mountain in Africa. So the next thing we need to add is cocoa fiber as the basis of our substrate. Remember that the cocoa fiber needs to be dry. This clay background can fall off if there is moisture. The Pterinochilus murinus is a species that does pretty well in dry enclosures, so here we can absolutely use that. Another species that does well with a dry enclosure is the Chromatopelma cyanopubescens. My Chromatopelma is doing pretty well with a clay background. It looks really nice with the webbing, and I really hope that the Pterinochilus murinus will also do the same. Now, to add a bit more texture, I will add a bit of sand and mix that together. More reindeer lichen, because there is not much moisture that can ruin it, so you can, for example, add that here to blend this more into the background. A bit here maybe, some stuff here. Some African looking plants. One important step, the water dish. The Pterinochilus murinus also needs water. I'm not convinced about the stick, but I can add that to the ground here, and this will also look nice. Yeah, this looks okay. And when the tarantula will web everything up, it will give a nice piece of decoration. I think the fake plants are ruining the look of a desert place, so maybe change that piece of cork. Okay, yeah, this looks definitely better. So yeah, let's get to the star of this episode, the OBT. I cannot await it. So now let's get to the tricky part of this video. We need to get this OBT out from this enclosure and get it to the glass enclosure next to me. So will it bite? That is the question. I have my pokey poker here, but for this episode this will be the baboon booper. I have a cup that I will try to catch the tarantula inside. Of course, my trusty cardboard curtain. Okay, I hope I can get it into this thinner cup. Oh yeah, he's inside there. Oh, you're already attacking. He's already attacking. Where is this top? I mean, this is dangerous a bit. Okay, little girl, you can do it. Okay. There. Okay. Absolutely stunning tarantula. One of the mainstays for tarantula keepers that are a bit more advanced. I mean, a lot more advanced they are. They are super aggressive. This one was alright. She looks a bit exhausted after the chase. Here you can take a look at the epigastric furrow. And here are those dreaded fangs of the OBT. And we will leave that. We can use the poker out. I don't want the tarantula to web up this plastic tub, so you are chilled for an OBT, very chilled. What a beautiful tea. So as you can see, the enclosure came out pretty nice. I really like the look of those clay backgrounds, and the color is even better than the red clay, in my opinion. As a downside, this enclosure is really heavy and I need to check the water dish more often. But hey, this is the price for having a nice looking enclosure and I'm willingly paying it. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing, ring the bell, leave a comment what you like, what you want to see in future videos, and as always, thank you for watching. Tarantula out. So yeah, let's get to the star of this. Come on!